Field trial research has found that spraying tomato plants with dissolved aspirin tablets reduced early blight by up to 45% compared to untreated plants. 1 aspirin tablet, 1 gallon of water. A separate trial confirmed the same compound in aspirin cut tomato disease incidence nearly in half. The people selling you $12 disease prevention sprays are not hiding this research. They are just counting on you not looking for it. This video gives you 10 of those look for it moments, all from items you already own. Your medicine cabinet and kitchen pantry are already a garden center. They have been since before garden centers existed. For most of the 20th century, home gardeners passed these remedies from neighbor to neighbor because they worked. Then the big box stores arrived, packaged the same chemistry in branded bottles, and charged you for the convenience of not knowing what was already in your house. June is the right time to have this conversation, because your plants are in full growth mode right now, and so are the pests and diseases that want to stop them. Every item on this list costs less than $2 to apply per season. Compare that to what you spent on the garden center aisle last spring. Number 10. Hydrogen peroxide from the drugstore. That brown bottle in your medicine cabinet, the one you bought for first aid and forgot about, contains 3% hydrogen peroxide. It sells for about $1.50 at any pharmacy. When you dilute 1 tablespoon of it into 1 gallon of water and water your plants with that solution, a couple of useful things happen. The hydrogen peroxide releases an extra oxygen molecule as it breaks down in the soil. Roots use that oxygen to accelerate nutrient uptake and push through compacted soil faster than they would otherwise. Seedlings treated with diluted hydrogen peroxide consistently emerge faster and show stronger early root systems than untreated seeds. The second benefit is fungal control at the soil level. Root rot, damping off in seedling trays, the white fuzzy mold you sometimes see on the surface of potting mix after a wet week. Hydrogen peroxide kills all of it on contact. 1 tablespoon per gallon, applied as a drench, clears that soil surface without harming the plant. You can also use the same dilution as a foliar spray to knock back early signs of powdery mildew before it spreads across your squash or cucumber leaves. The key word is early. Hydrogen peroxide works on contact, so you need to catch the problem when it is just starting. One caution: do not make the solution stronger thinking it will work faster. 3% hydrogen peroxide diluted to 1 tablespoon per gallon is roughly a 0.1% final concentration, and that is enough. Go higher and you risk burning leaf edges and bleaching foliage. The bottle in your cabinet is already the right concentration. Number 9. Baking soda. You probably have a box of this open in your refrigerator right now. A fresh box costs under $1 and lasts an entire growing season in the garden. The formula that works best is 1 tablespoon of baking soda stirred into 1 gallon of water, with 1 teaspoon of lightweight dish soap to help it stick to leaves. Research on sodium bicarbonate mixtures against powdery mildew, including work documented by university extension programs in the 1990s, found that weekly applications on roses and vegetables significantly slowed the spread of the disease compared to untreated controls. The baking soda raises the surface pH of the leaf, and powdery mildew cannot survive in that alkaline environment. The important detail, and garden center salespeople will never volunteer this, is that baking soda prevents and slows. It does not reverse a full infection. If your zucchini is already covered in white powder, baking soda will not rescue it. What it will do, starting in June when conditions are right for mildew to take hold, is protect the new growth coming in and stop the spread to neighboring plants. Spray the undersides of leaves as well as the tops. The mildew spores live on both surfaces. Baking soda also doubles as a mild antifungal dust for seedling trays. A light pinch of dry powder on the soil surface of newly sprouted seedlings helps prevent damping off, the fungal collapse that kills seedlings at the soil line before they ever get a chance. Number 8. Cinnamon. The cinnamon sitting in your spice rack contains cinnamaldehyde, a compound with documented antifungal properties in laboratory studies. For garden use, the most consistent application is as a protective dust on seedlings. When you transplant seed or start seeds in trays, a light dusting of ground cinnamon on the soil surface suppresses the fungal pathogen responsible for damping off. It is cheap, it smells better than any fungicide you can buy, and it does not harm beneficial soil organisms the way synthetic fungicides do. For cutting, cinnamon also works as a rooting powder substitute. Dip the cut end of a stem in ground cinnamon before planting it in propagation mix. The cinnamon seals the wound and prevents fungal infection at the cutting site while the plant develops roots. Commercial rooting powders that do the same thing sell for $6 to $10 per small jar. Your cinnamon costs 50 cents per application. One honest note here: Store-bought ground cinnamon from your kitchen is not as concentrated as pure cinnamaldehyde extract. It works reliably for prevention and as a seedling protectant, but it will not rescue a plant from a full-blown fungal disease the way a commercial fungicide might. Use it early and use it as maintenance, not emergency treatment. Number 7. Epsom salt. Epsom salt is magnesium sulfate, and it has been used in vegetable gardens for generations because tomatoes, peppers, and roses are all genuinely prone to magnesium deficiency as the growing season lengthens. Magnesium is what plants need to produce chlorophyll, and when they run low on it, the leaves between the veins turn yellow while the veins themselves stay green. That interveinal yellowing in midsummer is almost always a magnesium story. 1 tablespoon of Epsom salt dissolved in a gallon of water and used as a foliar spray every 2 to 4 weeks during active growth addresses that deficiency directly. You can also add 2 tablespoons per plant to the soil at planting time for tomatoes and peppers. Epsom salt at garden centers or farm supply stores costs about $4 for a large bag. The exact same product in the garden center aisle gets repackaged as a specialty plant supplement and sells for 3 times that. One important qualification: Epsom salt helps when you actually have a magnesium deficiency. If your soil already has adequate magnesium, adding more will not make your plants grow faster or produce more fruit. If you are unsure, look for the interveinal yellowing symptom first before treating routinely. Zone-wise, heavy rainfall regions tend to see more magnesium leaching from sandy soils, so gardeners in zones 3 through 6 with lighter soils often see this deficiency more than gardeners in clay-heavy soils. Number 6. Rubbing alcohol. Scale insects, mealybugs, aphid colonies on roses and pepper plants, and spider mite infestations on squash and beans are at their worst right now in June. Rubbing alcohol kills them on contact by dissolving the waxy outer coating that protects soft-bodied insects and their eggs. It does not require rinsing, it leaves no residue harmful to birds or beneficial insects once it dries, and a bottle costs under $2. The working ratio is 1 part rubbing alcohol to 7 parts water, applied as a spray. For heavy infestations on individual stems, a cotton ball dipped in undiluted rubbing alcohol and pressed against a cluster of scale or mealybugs works faster than spraying. The alcohol kills on contact within seconds. For a more stubborn infestation, add a few drops of dish soap to your alcohol water mix to improve coverage. Repeat every 3 to 5 days for 2 weeks to catch eggs that hatch between treatments. The caution with rubbing alcohol is sun exposure. Apply it in the early morning or evening, not in direct afternoon sun. The alcohol evaporates quickly, but if the spray sits on leaves in full midday sun before it dries, it can cause localized leaf burn. Same applies to any concentrated application on young or very tender new growth. Test 1 leaf, wait 24 hours, then treat the whole plant if no burning appears. Number 5. Dish soap, the plain kind. This is not about the antibacterial or scented varieties. Plain, unscented liquid dish soap, diluted in water, is one of the oldest and most effective insecticidal sprays for soft-bodied pests. The soap disrupts the outer membrane of aphids, whiteflies, and spider mites. 2 teaspoons of plain dish soap per quart of water is the standard mix. That is a quart of finished spray for less than a penny. The difference between this and commercial insecticidal soap concentrate is essentially the price. Insecticidal soap concentrate retails for $8 to $15 for a small bottle. The active mechanism is the same fatty acid chemistry you already have under your sink. The commercial versions are formulated at a consistent concentration, which makes them slightly more predictable, but plain dish soap works for the pests you are dealing with in June. Aphid outbreaks on rose buds, whitefly on tomato undersides, spider mite webs on cucumbers and beans. If you are going to use this regularly, subscribe to this channel for more money-saving garden strategies coming out every week. Same rules apply here as with the alcohol spray. Morning or evening application, keep it off leaves in direct afternoon sun, and test 1 leaf first on any plant you have not treated before. Some plants, particularly those with waxy or hairy foliage, are more sensitive to soap than others. Number 4. Cornmeal. Whole ground cornmeal, the kind you use in cornbread, has a documented history as a soil fungicide. The mechanism is indirect but reliable. Cornmeal encourages beneficial soil organisms that compete with and suppress harmful pathogens in lawns and vegetable beds. The general approach is to work 2 pounds of whole cornmeal into every 100 square feet of garden bed in spring, or pour it dry around the base of plants showing signs of soil-borne disease. Cornmeal's effectiveness has been documented in field practice, particularly in suppressing soil-borne pathogens in turf and landscape beds. Cornmeal costs about $1 per pound at any grocery store. The bag of specialty soil disease treatment at the garden center, that accomplishes the same result costs $20 or more. Cornmeal gluten, a byproduct of the milling process sold at feed stores, acts as a pre-emergent weed suppressant. It prevents weed seeds from germinating by inhibiting root formation. It does not work on established weeds, only on seeds before they sprout, and it will also suppress seeds you intentionally planted. So it is best applied to mature, established beds where you are not direct sowing anything new. Number 3. White vinegar. White vinegar from the grocery store is 5% acetic acid, and that acid kills weed foliage on contact. The practical reality is that grocery store vinegar works well on young weeds with shallow root systems, specifically the seedling stage annual weeds you see filling bare soil in June. Apply it undiluted on a sunny day, directly to the leaves of the weed. The acid burns through the cell walls within hours. Land-grant university extension research, including work documented at ucnr.edu, has confirmed that 5% acetic acid is effective on young annual weeds but has limited effect on established perennial weeds with deep root systems. Dandelion, thistle, and bindweed will regrow from their roots even after the foliage is burned back. For those, you need repeated applications over multiple weeks, or a higher concentration. Horticultural vinegar at 20% acetic acid, available at farm supply stores, is significantly more effective on mature weeds but requires protective eyewear and gloves, because at that concentration it can cause skin and eye irritation. For spot treating cracks in paving, gravel paths, and gaps along fence lines where you simply want bare ground with no chemical residue, 5% grocery store vinegar is perfect. It breaks down rapidly in the soil without leaving contamination, and it costs about $3 per gallon. Number 2. Aspirin. This is the one backed by the most documented research, which is why it opened this video. Aspirin contains salicylic acid, and salicylic acid is not a foreign substance to plants. It is part of their natural immune signaling system. When a plant comes under attack from pathogens or pests, it produces salicylic acid internally as a defense trigger. Applying it externally through an aspirin solution effectively puts that defense system on alert before the attack happens. Multiple field trials have documented that a solution made from 1 aspirin tablet dissolved in 1 gallon of water reduced early blight severity in tomatoes by up to 45% compared to untreated control plants. The timing matters. Aspirin spray works best as a preventative applied before infection pressure builds, not after blight has already appeared. Start applying it in early June in most U.S. zones, when nighttime temperatures stay warm and humidity rises, because those are the conditions that favor early blight. The same solution has also shown results in reducing cucumber mosaic virus symptoms in squash family plants in documented field trials. Apply it as a foliar spray every 2 weeks throughout the growing season. 1 bottle of generic store-brand aspirin contains over 100 tablets and costs under $4. That is 2 full growing seasons of disease protection for tomatoes, peppers, squash, and cucumbers at a cost that is genuinely embarrassing to the garden center industry. Do not use coated or buffered aspirin tablets. Plain, uncoated aspirin dissolves cleanly in water. BAFF or enteric-coated tablets have additional compounds that do not belong on your plants. Number 1. Milk. Plain, inexpensive milk from the grocery store is one of the most consistently proven organic treatments for powdery mildew on cucurbits, meaning your squash, cucumbers, melons, and zucchini. Field trials have found that a dilution of 40% milk to 60% water, applied as a foliar spray once a week, reduced powdery mildew severity on cucurbits in documented trials. The mechanism is not fully settled in the literature, but the working hypothesis is that milk proteins create a surface environment hostile to powdery mildew spores, and some components of milk may trigger the plant's own immune response, similar to what salicylic acid does. What is settled is that it works in repeated trials, and the evidence is strong enough that it has been adopted into commercial organic production practices in several countries. Use whole milk or skim, either works. The 40% milk, 60% water dilution is the tested formulation. Spray it on the tops and undersides of leaves on a morning when you have a few hours of sunshine ahead, because the milk smell is briefly unpleasant until it dries. By mid-afternoon you will not notice it, and your plants will not care at all. Apply weekly throughout June, July, and August, which is exactly when powdery mildew pressure peaks in zones 4 through 8. A gallon of milk costs between $3 and $5. A comparable amount of commercial copper-based fungicide costs 4 times that. And milk does not require protective equipment to apply or careful storage between uses. The 10 items on this list represent about $40 in total if you bought all of them new today, and most of them you already own. The equivalent garden center products would cost you $200 or more, and in many cases, they would contain the same chemistry in a different bottle. The industry depends on you not knowing the connection between what is in your kitchen and what is in your garden. You know it now. There is a lot more of this on the channel, and it costs you nothing to subscribe and keep learning.